Hey guys, hope you're having a great day out there today. It is 4 o'clock straight up here in Cleveland. It's a beautiful day outside. And today we're going to have, we have a bunch of topics we're going to cover. We're definitely going to go into Neville Goddard today because people have been asking, because I talk about him a lot. So we're going to go deep into his teachings. We're also going to talk a little bit about how to get out of your head, because that's where we spend most of our time. And I'm going to be talking about, we're going to, as I said, deep into his teachings, but we're also going to be talking about programming, because everyone asks about that too, because what we talk about most is the fact that we're programmed, right? We're being brainwashed since the day that we are born. So we're going to go into how that happens and how we can shatter that programming. And then if you have any questions or comments, drop them into the comments below and I will get to them. Okay. So we're going to talk first about programming, because again, from the moment that we're born, we're programmed, subliminal messages, hypnotic suggestion, media programming, things from our family. Everything that we do until we're 10 is programming us, right? So, it's all real to us. It's all programming. And according to the subconscious mind, you are being programmed to live in fear, right? Fear that we aren't enough. You watch ads. It's always not thin enough, not young enough, not, we have to be this in order to be happy. We need this. It's a bunch of bullshit, right? So it's that fear that we aren't enough. We aren't enough the same as everyone else, right? We want to live our life boldly. We don't have to earn something in order to have it. In other words, working for something is one thing, but we don't have to do something to deserve the right to have what we want. Not just some people should have it. If you can dream it, you can have it, right? So it is attainable. We just think that that is the truth. We have simply been programmed to believe it. So let me ask you a question. Imagine that you're driving your car, right? And you get from point A to point B, and you don't realize exactly how you got there. In other words, in your head, you're thinking about dinner later. You're thinking about calling the girl that you like tomorrow, whatever it is. You're doing that in your head, but somehow you've gotten to your destination, right? Do you sit in front of the TV sometimes and zone out and you don't even know what's going on? You're literally looking at the TV screen. You have nothing else. You don't have your phone in your hand, although we do that too, right? Where we're trying to divide our attention. But even just sitting in front of the television, you're staring at the screen and you don't exactly know what's going on. You've zoned out, right? And it even happens when we dream. Have you ever had that? Where you dream, you wake up and you thought, wow, that seems so real. Well, to our subconscious, it was. Daydreaming, all of that. The average human being slips into this zone, this hypnotic trance, hundreds of times each and every day. And when you're in that trance, when you're in the subconscious mode, when the subconscious tape is running, it's like, a sponge is taking in all the information, the messages and the images that it's exposed to as though it was real. And we've talked about this before. Your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between something being real and actually just thinking about it. So think about how crazy that is. Your mind cannot tell between an image of it or the reality of it. So in this state, your ego mind isn't engaged. It's filtering this stimulation. It's judging it. It's analyzing it. And it's deciding what's considered useful and what isn't without your input. Your subconscious is doing it, thinking it's helping you. Your subconscious is literally an open portal. But to get in there and change that programming for most people is difficult. So it makes it really important to be mindful of what you expose your mind to. If you want to maintain or reprogram your mind to have more supportive, more inspirational, more happy thoughts, then just take stock of what you're letting in. Become, like Catherine says, the policeman of your own mind. You are the guard. This is your garden and you are the farmer. You decide what to plant there. So whatever metaphor you like, pick one and stick with it. You are the policeman of your mind. So pay very close attention to what you're letting happen up there, because whatever you think, I can't control it, my mind is just has a mind of its own. It's not true. You're in control. You've given up that control to a mechanism, and a mechanism that the way it's running is hurting us. Because anytime we go on autopilot, that tape runs from our childhood, and all that childhood BS that we haven't worked through comes back, and we have to wade through that again. So it's important, be mindful of what you are exposing your mind to. If you want to maintain, if you want to keep going the way you're going, that's one thing. But if you want to make transformation and change, you've got to start paying attention. That's where it starts, just being aware. The 3 A's that we always talk about starts with acknowledge. That's the first. Action is the middle one, but acknowledge. That means be honest with where you are right now. Not the sugar-coated version, not the BS version for your high school pals. It's where you really are. You have to acknowledge where you are. Now, the thing that, again, exposing your mind, paying attention to what you expose your mind to, it's really important for kids. Because again, their ego mind is barely developed, right? Before they're 10. But everything they expose their minds to becomes a part of that neurological fabric that creates them. We're not mature. We're not adults. We're children. But that mindset we had then is the mindset that rules us now when we're not present. As soon as we go on autopilot and start thinking of something else, start thinking of the past or the future, the subconscious tape runs. And that is what is destroying us. That's why we can't fix it. Most people cannot fix it because they don't know how. They try positive thinking and they try all these things that are just surface level. You never get into the subconscious to make the lasting transformation. Everything you do otherwise is just going to be a temporary fix, right? Some of the messaging that happens in childhood, just think about it, enrolls you for the rest of your life. You're not good enough. You're not thin enough. You're not smart enough. You'll never have this. You'll never have that. People like us aren't rich. Whatever it is, those mindsets, all those generations of your family until this moment have shaped you, have programmed you to be the person you are, depending on where you were born in the world, depending on the country, the government, the media, everything. But you are a creation, a conglomeration of so many different things. And this journey that we're all on now is where we start unpacking all this shit, where we start looking at the real us, where we are now. Oh my God, why am I still holding on to this? This isn't doing me any good. Because when you pull these things out into the cold, hard light of day, this is the great thing I want to share with you. They disappear, right? You don't have to do anything to work through them. So many of these things just being drugged out from the darkness, from the recesses of your mind and into the light where you're taking a cold, hard look at them, they can't stand up to that kind of scrutiny and they fall away. You don't have to do anything. Psychiatrists, people go to do that sort of thing. That's great. But a psychiatrist isn't there to help you awaken. They're there to keep making $300 an hour for the next 20 years as you work through a bunch of bullshit. And you feel all that pain again. Because remember, your body, your mind cannot tell the difference between doing it and thinking about it. So if you're working through that stuff constantly, for your body, it's like you're going through it over and over and over again. All the same endorphins fire, all the same feelings, the pit of your stomach, whatever it is. Think about it. Think about seeing an ex you had a horrible breakup with. Think about seeing a car that looks like theirs. Think about anything that makes you think of the relationship and you will get the feelings. If it was a bad breakup, if it ended badly, if it was somebody you're afraid of, all those feelings will rush back. So it's so important. I mean, that's why kids, especially now, when I was a kid, it was Nintendo. Today, I have no idea what it is, but I know it's crazy because you can put on goggles and you can be in the game, right? Teens play games and older people do for hours and hours on end in that trance, right? And here's what most people don't realize, how they're being programmed. And it has nothing to do with, it's the news, but it's, Fox versus CNN and conservative versus, that's all bullshit, right? It's two wings of the same bird here. Because when you are watching the news all the time, I don't care what it is, I don't care which way it's slanted politically, it's always the worst news. Because good news doesn't sell. They've tried that before. That's why newspapers always say, if it leads, it bleeds. The grossest, bloodiest, the biggest murder story is the one you're going to lead with, because it's the one people want to see. It's like people are like, the people that go to the circus to watch the high wire with no net. They don't want the guy to fall, but they want to be there if he does. That's the best way to describe it, right? We like that stuff. It's like you're driving by an accident and you're looking around, you want to see what happened. It's just human nature. It's what happens, right? But having the news on all the time, think about it. All of the horrible BS that we are ingesting, right? All the dangerous things in your kitchen that will kill you. And why your kids will never have a happy life. It just goes on and on and on. And it never ends. All they care about are ratings. They don't care about us. All advertising companies care about is selling product. They don't care about us. We are a commodity. That's what we are, because when we are not thinking for ourselves, we are allowing someone else to think for us. And those things all infuse our unconscious, subconscious mind with fear, with violence. And really bad is the idea of lack. When we are programmed with, we don't deserve it, we'll never have that. We are programmed with that. It's a thought pattern that becomes a belief pattern, and we believe that we don't deserve it. We can't have it. And we are operating from a place of lack instead of abundance. So you're never going to be able to attract abundance if you're putting out lack, to put it simply. Right? You can't live in the mindset of, I'll never have mine, the world hates me, and expect to have a good life. Because it doesn't work that way. Right? Our minds are programmed, and there is stimulation everywhere we go, just waiting for us to slip into that trance and allow that new programming to take hold. It's shocking when it's put this way, right? But it's the truth. I've spent my entire career, 30 years, going all over the world. I've seen the propaganda news of places where the government is communist and they don't allow anything on the news but the government message. So I've seen that. I've seen what's happening here in America. We are on a precipice here at this time. So many people are awakening, but so many other people, evil people, bad people, people that haven't found themselves. No one who has ever awakened has started a war or, had any kind of, battle, or not willing to kill millions of people for some ideology or religion. Awakened people don't do that. People that are tormented by their past, they do. They take it out on other people. If you don't understand your mind, the people who do will use it against you. That's all I know is the mind. I've made my fortune with the mind. I've taught the most successful people how to use the power of the mind. And I can tell you, you've got to be the gatekeeper of that stimulation. When you're walking around, when you're allowing the news to come in, the headlines of the magazines, all of those things are programming. They are written in a certain way. Those things don't go up there by accident. See how they affect your mood. See how they affect your self-talk, because that's important. The things that you say to yourself are the most important things of all, because those are things that are still programming you, because it's feeding your belief pattern. The thoughts, when I was a kid, I never liked math. I didn't like it first grade for some reason. I didn't really care for the teacher. I was a little cocky kid, and I didn't really like math. I didn't think I was good at it, right? I hated it. And because of a bad situation, I don't like math. I don't like math. I don't like math. I don't like math. Became, I'm not good at math. 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 Those are thoughts. And thoughts aren't dangerous until they start to become beliefs. And they become belief patterns. Because now they're ingrained in your DNA. And you believe it. I believed it. I'm no good at math. I'm no good at math. But I created that reality and made it the truth. I lived it until I woke up from that, right? So be the own gatekeeper. See what stimulation you're allowing to come in. See what your belief systems, see if they shift one way or another, depending on what it is you're looking at. Because what we want are things that make us more patient and more passionate and more powerful and happier. That's what we want. So start paying attention to what you're consuming, because it's not just your diet as far as food. It's your diet for what you're allowing up there. You know, you can have the best physique in the world. You can work out your body. You could have, you know, the pristine, perfect Mr. Universe physique. But if your mind is running rampant up there, you're going to have a horrible life. You have to take control of the human mind. And this is how we do it. All right. So don't forget, in a moment, we're going to talk about Neville Goddard, because Neville, he passed away in 1972, but his teachings inspire people to this day. He was so far ahead of his time. He really, really was. So we're going to get to him in a moment. I know you guys are going to enjoy this, because I'm actually going to take a deep dive, not only into his teachings, his spiritual teachings and his core concepts, but I'm going to give you a method. This is the Neville Goddard method for creating reality. This is what he was pushing all those years ago. And Neville was great because he always said, if a spiritual teacher is trying to sell you things all the time, you know, that is not a spiritual teacher. Somebody, you know, so he was, you know, he never charged. He did talks and things like that and lectures, but he wasn't the kind of person, you know, had a book every week and had a this and a that and all these things. He put it out there, and he put his belief system out there. So we're going to go into it, and I'm going to give you a deep dive into it today, because his method for creating reality I have used for years. And I first thought it was Earl Nightingale, but Earl Nightingale got it from Neville Goddard. So we'll go into that. It's a deep one. All right. We're also going to be talking about how we can get out of our heads, because we spend forever inside our own minds. We're in a prison of our own making. So I'm going to get into that next, but I want to remind you, tonight in the group at 8 o'clock, we're going to do a guided meditation. If you've never meditated before, or even if you do, and you want to try something different, this is a way we can do it together. And meditating together is powerful, you know, because, man, we can get in sync that way. And this is for attaining peace. You know, we all have problems. There's troubled times ahead, right? And we're in them now. So how do you find peace from all that? Well, we're going to do it tonight at 8 o'clock. It's quick. It's only a 10-minute long meditation, but I think you'll enjoy it. So come back here, 8 o'clock. It will be streaming live in the group. So we're going to go into now why we spend so much time in our heads and how we stop it. Because, again, the things we say to ourselves, think about all the chances you give everyone else. But we don't do that for ourselves, right? So, oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, I suck. The world hates me. You know, oh, my life is over. Does she love me? What if I fail? That voice constantly gnawing away at your peace, constantly gnawing away, you know, chip, 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 sometimes much louder than others. But that mind, that voice, remember, is not you. We go through this all the time. But the voice in your head is not you. The voice in your head is just the voice of your conditioned past. You know, you're the overseer. You're the driver. The body's the car. So you can always step back a little bit. And that is what creates the space between you and the problem, you and the situation. And you're able to go into the zone. Things seem to move slower. You're able to solve the problem without getting pulled into anger or fighting. And that's the whole goal of meditation, of connecting with yourself. Because only in the stillness do you find the answers. Meditation is life-changing. You have to do it. You're never going to get the spiritual awakening that you deserve. You know, you can get partly there, but meditation it's the key. It's the jump start, okay? So I know something about you right now, with me being here and you being there, that's true. You probably spend a lot of time in your head. And I can say that because 99% of us do. We worry about everything. We stress over everything. We freak out. You call it whatever you want. I like to call it the monkey mind, right? Or the preoccupied mind. 99% of our thoughts are useless. So many people think that they're thinking when they're actually just rearranging their prejudices. That's a great line from William James. Think about it. People that hate, racism, homophobia, whatever it is, when it's you against another group of people for whatever reason, that when you're thinking all these things, those aren't thoughts. You're just rearranging prejudices inside your mind. All my life I've been obsessed with practical things, and which is funny because I'm an entertainer and I go all over the world, and I have a big show, so you would think, that's the opposite, right? But I've always been one to study practical philosophy and practical knowledge and practical work, practical advice, because the idea comes from pragmatism. And in that philosophy, I think it was 19th century in America, if you're going to use that, I think it was William James, I just gave you the quote, was a physician, but he went and became a philosopher, and he defined this philosophy. So when he was asked about thoughts and worry and stress, William James, they call him the father of pragmatism, said the greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. How powerful is that? Simple and true. Pragmatism believes that the mind is a tool. So your mind should work for you. Your mind should not work against you. Our mind is there to support us, to benefit us, to create our life. What we're allowing it to do is menial tasks. We have the most powerful supercomputer in the world, and it's like we're using it as a calculator. We're not using, a tenth of its ability, of its power. Now, if you say, well, you know what? I can't help thinking those things. Well, you can. It takes practice because it's a skill like anything else. You have the ability, you have the option, you have the power to decide what you think. Or you can choose not to think at all. And that's a beautiful place, if you can get there in meditation. It's one of the most important and practical things you can learn in life. And before you do, you spend hours and hours and hours a day. More hours in the day do you spend in your head than out of it, than in the present moment. Just think about how much during the day you think things like, I wonder what my boss thinks. What happens if I lose my job? Does she love me? I don't think he cares about me. I just keep failing. Why does my life suck? Why is my life awesome and other people's are not? What if I get cancer? This mole looks like cancer. I don't care about my job. Is there something wrong with me? I can't finish anything. What's wrong with me? And it goes on and on and on. That's all real shit. That's stuff people say. When I ask them, what do you worry about? I didn't just write these down. These are all things that people have said, because I love to get in and find out what people are using their mind for, what they're thinking about, what consumes their time. Do you know what those thoughts do to you? They give you guilt, they give you anger, they give you suffering, they give you anxiety, stress, and that creates disease. 20 years ago, I had lymphoma, came out of the blue, but the person I was 20 years ago, if you believe that your body, because disease is dis-ease, not at ease. You create that. The body is unbelievable. It's when you think about the placebo effect. Somebody is in the hospital and, the doctor gives them a sugar pill, but they think it's medicine and it works. It works because they believe it. And that comes back to the core of everything we talk about, because you have to believe that it's possible. You have to believe that you can do it because you can. And once the belief becomes real, everything starts to change by osmosis. You don't want to be constantly filled with guilt and anger and suffering. So there's just one question. What is the practical use of your thoughts? Think about it. Right? There's no answer. Thoughts have no use. 99% of them. So which thoughts are useful? Well, thinking about how you can solve a problem, because a problem is just an unanswered question. Put your brain to use and think about how you can solve the problem ahead of you. There are a lot of those here on the planet. Also, understanding knowledge. That is something that is useful. That's how a thought is useful. That means this: try to internalize knowledge and think about how you can use that knowledge to improve your life, your career, your relationships, right? And that's it. You can ignore every other thought. If you're going into your memories because you have to go back and get something that is pertinent to today that can help you, that's fine. So go back into the warehouse of your mind and drudge up the pictures and take a look, come back to the present. But stay out of the past, because the past is over. You can't change it. You can't rewrite it. You can't do anything about it. So this I would, I should, I wish, kills us, consumes us. So stay out of the past and stop going into the future and worrying about stuff that's never going to happen the way that you think. You know, we do that all the time. Oh my God. We think of the worst case scenario. The mind comes up with the worst case scenario trying to protect us. What if this happens? You know? So if you're not thinking about how to solve a problem, again, you can go into the past, see something in the future, whatever. But if it's not trying to solve a problem or internalizing and understanding knowledge that can help you, not being a knowledge collector, but knowledge that you can use on your journey, that's all you've got to think about and pay attention to. The other thoughts you can let go. If you're constantly thinking it's because, you haven't trained your mind, well, you have to get out of your head. If not, you go crazy. Everyone will, and no exception. You're probably thinking so much that you're missing out on life. Some people spend their entire lives, like they come out at the beginning and they're in a tunnel the whole time, and they fall out at the end when they die. They never realize there's anything else. They think they have to be stressed. They think things have to be this way. They think a lady must do this. They think a guy must do this. They think, but they don't think. They are programmed. That's programming. You know, when, good girls don't do this. How would you possibly come up with that? You came up with it because somebody told it to you. A family member drilled it into your head. So that's programming. So how do I train myself to stop these useless thoughts? That's what you're thinking, right? Awareness. Again, the first A in the AAA program we always talk about is acknowledgement, becoming aware, acknowledging where you are, being aware of your current situation. Every time you start to drift off and go into the land of the past or the land of the future, become aware of it. Because becoming aware of it, you're already 95% of the way towards winning. Because most people aren't aware. Something happens to us. We get sucked into it. Somebody says something that pisses us off. So our back goes up. We get sucked into the drama. We argue, we yell, we fight. Oh, we're bitter. Oh, we're driving over to their house and we're arguing with them in our mind. And you're yelling at the person and they're yelling back in your mind. You're creating this whole fight inside your mind. Right? We do that to ourselves all the time. And it could be an hour, it could be a day, it could be a week. For some people, it's a lifetime. You never wake up. You never realize that you've been sucked into it. So if you allow yourself to be sucked in, and in 10 minutes you go, uh-oh, and you're aware, I'm in this situation, that's fantastic. Don't kick yourself for getting sucked into it, but pat your back for realizing it. Because every time you do that, you strengthen that muscle up there. That muscle. Think of the mind. It's the neurological gym up there. And you're working out. So you are strengthening that muscle. Meditation, you do it with focus. You're able to then pull back, pull back, pull back. Every time your mind goes to something else, you pull it back. Oh my God, it's torture. That's all day long. I pull my mind back a million times. I'm in meditation, constantly pulling my mind back. I'm not getting anywhere. It looks that way, but it's not, because you are strengthening that. So what's going to happen? You are now going to be able to focus deeper with intention. And that is going to change everything, because we are so used to just letting the mind go crazy. But having focus and intent gives you incredible power. So being aware is where it starts. You drift off, catch yourself. Step outside of yourself. Remember, you're the observer. So I always tell, I have a friend, I was doing a TV spot in Cleveland once for a show I was doing. She showed up at the show. I had never met her before. She said, I saw you on TV. I knew I had to come. And so she stayed after the show. She had stage 4 cancer. And she was full of anxiety. She was full of stress. And they've given her no time, like weeks to live. And, she was lamenting life choices and everything else. But we talked. And, I said, you don't have cancer. The body you're in has cancer. It's like you're driving a car with an engine problem. But you're the driver. And at one point, you're going to get out of this car and you'll get into a new one. So that was enough. That insight to her made it okay, she could deal with it. And we've talked since then via email, and she's dealing with it. She's learning to do other things. She's reading, she's doing all these things. And because she believes now, she is a spiritual being. And whatever you believe, energy never is destroyed. It goes on. So, we're all here as spiritual beings, and we're just pretending to be humans. It's not the other way around. We're not humans trying to get spiritual. We know all these things deep inside. We just forget them. We're born and we have to relearn them. That's, I think, the reason we're here. It's almost just to relearn the things we already know. That's what things happen in our life are just lessons. That's why the universe will keep knocking you in the head if you keep missing the lesson. So become aware. Don't judge. Don't label. Don't think you're stupid. If you do that, you're thinking again. So what I want you to do is say this to yourself. You go, oh, that's cute. That's a cute thought. Now let's get back to reality, right? You can name it. Name the voice in your head. Oh, Bill's at it again. Bill. Because when you make fun of it, you joke about it, right? It takes the power away. If you can change your mind, you can change your life. Guaranteed. Every motivational speaker since the beginning of speaking has been saying that. But it's true. If you can create that for yourself, what you believe to be true is true. So are you back to reality? Do you feel now? Do you feel like you're looking at things differently, right? Do you feel the seat under you? Do you feel the iPhone in your hand? Are you thinking about how to apply this information? Great. Then you're using your mind, right? It's not using you. Those are positive things. You've watched this. I can do that. That's something I can do. That is how you use the mind constructively. This, oh my God, this is going to happen. I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to get cancer. I'm going to this. I'm going to that. That is torture. A life of that is torture. You go from one thing to the next. You never can find happiness because you're looking for it out there in a person or a job or a house or a car or whatever. And you'll get that. And you'll have that feeling. I hate to tell you, I've had sports cars and mansions and everything you can imagine. And that feeling lasts, but not very long, because it's not that we want. It's not the money. It's not the car. It's not the beach house. We all think that it's the money, but it's not. It's what the money can do. It's the financial freedom. It's the ability to take care of our family and the people we care about. That's what it really is. It's freedom. Okay? So if you're thinking about those things and little changes you can make, well, you're using your mind. It's not using you. Your mind, and this is a no bullshit truth, is the most powerful tool on earth. We don't even understand it. Doctors, physicists, they can't tell you how consciousness works. Every time science comes up with something new, then we change the story. That's what happens. We thought the earth was flat. It's proven it's not. Science changed. Science is evolving. Science isn't, okay, this is it. It's a wall. And we can't learn anything new. If something comes in that changes what we thought before, that's great. That's truth. And then we can go forward from there. So your mind is incredibly powerful. And you're using it right now to do menial tasks. You're right, John. I'm reading these comments. You are more powerful than you could ever imagine. And that's the problem. No one ever does. Rena, you've been posting great stuff, so I appreciate it lately. I've been looking at that. Yep. You said that for the mind, it is the same to do it. Is it possible to do the same with sex? Yes, actually it is. Think about it. That's probably where it happens the most. I mean, go back to being a kid, a teenager, right? And close your eyes and think about that one-on-one time, and you don't even really know what sex is for sure, just things you've seen in movies or whatever. But you put yourself in the scenario, right, in your mind. What are fantasies? And you have the same bodily reaction you have if you were physically having sex. So you can do it with anything. They've done it over time where they've done tests. I know Stanford did this years ago where they took 90 college students. They took 30 group, right? A group of 30 3 times. And the first group, they allowed into the gym every day. And for 90 minutes, they practiced basketball, shooting the hoop, running around, all of that. Now, none of these 90 people played on the basketball team or were athletic in any way. They weren't basketball players. So these are people just learning. The second group was told to do nothing for that 90 minutes, read, watch TV, do whatever they wanted in the classroom, but they weren't to do anything to do with basketball. And the third group were told to spend that 90 minutes imagining that they were playing. Okay? So see it. See yourself making the shot. See this, see that. Okay? For 90 minutes. They were all tested. They all played before they started. And then 6 weeks later, when they were all tested again, the group that went into the court every day, they improved by 37%, 38%. The group that did nothing didn't improve at all, obviously. But the amazing thing is the group that only imagined they were doing it improved almost exactly the same, like 37%. How is that possible? It's possible because the mind cannot tell the difference between doing something or imagining that you're doing it. That's why when you start getting upset about something that happened in your life before, an ex, a family member, some kind of hurt, all those feelings that you stored with that thought come back. They rush into your body. That is happening because to your subconscious, this event is happening now. You've brought up the past with all of the bullshit attached to it. You've stuck it into the player. And now your body feels exactly the same as it did then. So your mind can't tell the difference. It's bad if you think of it one way, but it's incredibly liberating if you think about it the other. That's why runners, before the Olympics, before their races, they imagine the race. They see themselves running. They see themselves coming in. They see the time on the watch. That's visualization. It's getting, Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant was somebody I met years ago. I was working, doing shows at the Comedy Store in LA. I've never seen somebody more focused and more interested in mind power. This was somebody who, this guy was incredible. Was able to focus so intently, on his goals and made them come true. So that happens when the mind can't tell the difference. If you use that to your advantage, if you start visualizing, if you start seeing yourself where you want to be and feeling that way. This is perfect. It's leading into Neville, which is this topic pretty much. Okay. So we're going to go into Neville next. If you have any questions, I'll get to them at the end. Just drop them into the comment section. By the way, I'm wearing these sunglasses. I went to the eye doctor this morning and I got some drops in my eyes. So I'm not trying to be trendy and cool. I'm just right in front of the window. So that's why. So we're going to talk about Neville because Neville Goddard was the man. And he was so far ahead of his time, And so I want to go first. Again, this is nothing. These things are never. These aren't formal. These lives. It's whatever we want to talk about. It's knowledge that you need. But we're not formal here. So if you have a question or comment or think something differently, even put it out there, because we'll talk about it. That's why we're here. And as we start doing these, we're going to start bringing people on live. We'll start doing that and interact more as a community, because I think that's important, because we want you to be in one spot where everything you need is here. Because if you're doing 50,000 different things, you're never going to make it. But if you're doing a program that is in steps, it's so much different, because it's easy. It's easy when you're doing it step by step. It's also easy when you're doing it with a group of people that you care about. And that is what we do here. So we're going to talk about Neville's teachings. And I'm going to give you just a quick summary of his concepts. So there's so much out there about him. So many people quote him, from the big guys, to I've seen just hundreds and hundreds of YouTube videos. He's been dead for, before I was born. But his teachings are powerful, and they show you how powerful you really are. You'll also notice all of these concepts are closely related to each other, and they play into each other. The way that we live our lives here, the way that we spend our time, a lot of it is based on his teachings, because his teachings now have been, back then he was such a rebel, and now more and more, and quantum physics and other things are explaining what he was talking about way back then, So I'm still learning. We all are. And more than that, we're experiencing. So it's our hope and it's our aim that, by explaining his teaching, and I'm going to be simple and give you relatively simple terms, it'll give you some context, particularly if you're starting out on your spiritual journey. And then I'll go in depth on the concepts in another video, but I'm gonna go into what they are right now. Okay, so here we go. Neville Goddard said consciousness is the only reality. Now, consciousness is awareness. In pretty much every spiritual teaching, consciousness and knowing who you are at the core. It's at the core of it. No matter what you peel back, when you see all these programs and these books and everything else, almost all of them come down to the mind and knowing who you are at the core. Because we don't know what reality is, but we do know that it exists. We are conscious of being right now. I just said, we're not our thoughts. You're not your body. You're not your feelings. You have thoughts. You have a body. You have feelings. But the only thing that always remains, no matter what, is your awareness of being. You can even lose your sense of self, and you will still know I am. Your awareness of being, your I am, is the basis of God consciousness. And it's also of Neville Goddard's teachings. Be still and know that I am God. Goddard said that consciousness is the only reality. It's the only thing that is permanent, and it's the only thing that's the truth. Your reality is whatever you are conscious of being, because this is the vantage point from which you see the world. This is the seat of self from where you see reality. In that sense, nothing is outside of you. Your reality is within you, and everything else is merely a projection. So what does that mean? Well, it means imagination creates reality. It means there are no coincidences. There are synchronicities. And I had this memory since I was a kid, because I had an experience when I was really young, and I knew the definition of synchronicity when I was 12 years old. The series of several seemingly random and unrelated events occurring together in a meaningful manner. That is synchronicity. It's where something so crazy happens. You're looking at the photo of an old friend you haven't talked to in 20 years. Your cell phone rings. It's them, right? That happens all the time, but we write it off. It's a coincidence, So synchronicities, you have to be able to pay attention to those, because they're trying to tell you something, right? So imagination creates reality. What does that mean? That means no coincidence. How often has that happened to you, where you've had kind of a fleeting thought, or you visualized something or thought of something and it came true? I used to visualize in my several years ago, one of my visualization practices was, I was visualizing that big house. I was visualizing the swimming pool, all of those things, And the day I moved into a house and I stood there, I realized I'm standing in this foyer of this house. This is the image. This is it. And I was happy about that. But again, all of that fades away. If you're not constantly working on your spiritual journey, you start to get that the human part of us takes over and goes, oh, it's just coincidence. Oh, that shit happens all the time. And so we forget the magic of it. We are so programmed that, not to see miracles. We're supposed, if you look at the world like everything's amazing, your life's going to be fantastic. If everything is shit, everybody's out to get you, everybody's evil, the world's a shitty place, guess what? You're going to be buried in that scenario because you're creating it for yourself. Imagination creates reality. So Neville was a firm believer in imagination creating reality. That's his big quote. We often take cues from our external world, thinking that this is what is real, but it is imagination that comes first. By focusing on the physical, what are we doing when we do that? We are recreating our past over and over and over again. That's what we do when we do that. So, life itself is imagined. It's like a lucid dream. Going back to consciousness being the only reality. Reality is just a projection. You are an observer. You are basically the dreamer, dreaming an eternal dream, which you call life. What shows up externally is decided by you. You select what you believe to be true and how you walk through this world. Neville teaches to control your imagination in order to create your reality, rather than having it run on autopilot. And this is a breakthrough. This is the real secret. Shit, this is the secret behind the secret, because this is the truth. It's what every text on the law of attraction misses. It's the feeling part. It's the feeling as if part. And we're going to go into that deep, but that's the part that's missing. Until I started doing that, nothing was changing. I was having little victories. But all those years ago, when I started putting these things into effect in my life, it's been incredible. What shows up is decided by us. So we create our reality rather than having it on autopilot, rather than just living what is in front of us. Not just waiting for somebody to do something and we react. We're always living in reaction. Somebody does something out there, we react in here. Why don't we create instead, co-create? By becoming conscious of what it is you imagine, you can become aware of how you are creating your reality. And then, you can change it. You can deliberately change it. This should be the greatest gift you've ever received. Because to think that you're small and you're nothing, and that, you're in this all alone is not true. We're all together. We're connected. We're in this universal consciousness, love. We are all part of each other. That's why somebody who's awakened is never going to go to war, is not going to exterminate other people, is not going to try to push a philosophy on people, even by killing them. Okay? Oneness. We are all one consciousness. In other words, we don't each have a separate consciousness. We are connected to a universal mass consciousness of forever. The past, the future, forever. We're in that consciousness. The concept of oneness is really one of the most important spiritual teachings. It's at the core of every concept. There is no real separation in the world. There's no duality. There's no good and bad, and there's no past and future. There's no them and no us. Only the whole universe in an eternal now. Separation is just an illusion. Separation was created by man. Separation, this idea that it's us versus them, me versus you, it's an illusion. And our ego feeds on that. It's been created, right? Neville believed that The ego was created so that source, God, whatever you believe in, could experience itself. So it could look out and see and experience it. In reality, everything is inherently connected. So we're all part of one consciousness, and we're made up by unique expressions of it. If you've ever had a mystical experience, you probably felt this same sense of deep connection to everything. This is a sense of oneness. It's a sense of wholeness. Oneness and enlightenment are the same thing as enlightenment. Enlightenment is not a change, but just a recognition. Okay? So, enlightenment is not a change. It's just a recognition. Something you've always known, but you're just reminded of. I said that just moments ago. We know all these things. We just have to relearn them. If you've never experienced it, know the only thing that keeps you from it is your mind. Neville's teachings do not explicitly speak of oneness in the traditional sense, but he says consciousness is the only reality and that we're connected to it, that everything is you, that the whole vast world is self, it's consciousness. You're not separate from anything, especially not from what you want. In essence, awakening to your true self is the same thing as realizing that we're all one. And what I love most, what he said about love, because, his idea was that we are love and only love is real. Love is not an emotion and love is not an experience. It's who you are and it's the truth. To me, the words of God, source, consciousness, universe, love, you can use those interchangeably because it really is all the same, because love is the only thing that is real. Everything that is not love is just an illusion. Fear is only an absence of love. And so it's not real. There is nothing to fear, as love is your birthright. It's always with you because it is you. Neville said, this teaching does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. Powerful, right? And like I said at the time, towards the end of his life, he was accepted a lot more. And over time, since his passing, so many people, Louise Hay, Wayne Dyer, there's so many people that, have been teaching his spiritual teachings. So another thing that he talked about a lot was your reality is just a mirror of your subconscious. So think about this. As within, so without. Your physical reality always shows you what you feel and believe to be true inside. More often than not, this happens on that subconscious level. The physical mirrors your subconscious beliefs, and you cannot experience or perceive anything that you do not believe to be true on some level. So it's pointless to try to change external reality without first clearing up internal. Secondary reality, outer world. Primary reality, inner world. Always your reality is inner, number one. Number two is outside world. Everybody has it backwards. They think that is reality. And this is just, my crazy mind. It's backwards, right? This is why Neville Goddard's teachings emphasize not to trust your senses more than your imagination, because it's imagination that comes first and foremost. The whole vast world is no more than man's imagining pushed out. That was a quote from him. This means that everything you encounter in this world is a reflection of yourself, your beliefs, your assumptions, your fears, your insecurities, including the people and the circumstances in it. That's why when somebody does something that you don't like, it's because you see something in them that you don't like about yourself. They do something that either you do or something you wish you didn't do or something. There's something. It becomes a mirror. But the great news here is you can fix this just by shifting your perception. You can always shift the world around you, and create miracles every day, because miracles are nothing but a shift in perception. That's it. It's 6 inches. You don't have to climb a mountain. You don't have to sit in a cave and meditate for a week. You only have to go 6 inches because it's between your ears. That's where everything, every change and transformation has to start. So assumptions harden into fact. What does that mean? Well, the law of assumption says that whatever you assume to be true comes to pass, whether objectively true or not. So most of our assumptions are automatic and subconscious, based on our experiences or what other people tell us, parents, coaches, teachers, when we're children. And then we accept it as the truth. It is in your power to change your assumptions and to experience a different reality accordingly. This can be impossible. It feels so overwhelming, like I'm never going to achieve this, especially when the circumstances show us the opposite of what we want to experience. But Neville emphasizes the importance of persistence, the importance of the action. Without the action step, you're daydreaming. Okay? Neville Goddard, persisting in your assumption regardless of what your senses tell you. That's the line. You must persist in your assumption regardless of what your senses tell you. An assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. That happens mostly, the best example I can think of is passed down from generation to generation in your family, right? Something false becomes true. And over time, it becomes the truth. It becomes the truth for you and your family. In a way that you can predict or know, right? So the subconscious mind creates the means necessary in order to bring about the assumption to make it a reality. That's what's going on, right? So in a way that you cannot predict or know, in such a natural way that it feels normal and it feels logical. Your subconscious is doing that, right? The idea, Neville was big on the idea of time, and that time is just an illusion. You know, from a human perspective, time feels very real. We age. We have a past. We have a future, we think. We experience time in a linear way. It feels limited. It feels scarce. But is this really true? No. It's 4:58. We are live. Questions or comments, drop them below. Okay, so we experience time. We think it's limited. Time is supposed to be precious, right? Is it true? No. Not just in the realm of spiritual teachings, but in science, specifically physics. The concept of time is always debated. You know, Einstein conceptualized the theory of relativity, where space and time are inherently dependent on each other. And that means time is not an absolute, but it's relative to whoever is looking at it. It's relative to the observer. And on the quantum level, time does not even exist. From that point of view, the past really only exists in our memory. There is no past. The past is just former nows, because you're in the now, and in order to go into the past to remember it, you have to, it's just former nows. The future doesn't exist because when the future gets here, it will be now. One of the big problems is we're always looking for the payoff in the future. You're doing something now, but you're waiting for this. So you're always putting your happiness just ahead of you. It's like when we're making a cup of coffee. We don't just enjoy the making of it in the moment, stirring it. We want to drink it. And then we want to clean the cup. And then, you know what I mean? We're always one step ahead. So what that does is put your happiness just ahead of you, like a hot dog on a stick over the dog's head, right? The dog keeps running, or the sled, whatever, the horse or whatever, because it thinks it's going to get the hot dog hanging over its head, but it's never going to get it, right? That's what we do to ourselves. But there's no one to change but us, right? We live in an eternal now, and the past only exists when we think about it. A famous technique that Neville talks about is revision, where you kind of internally rewrite the story of a past event of how you'd like it to be in order to shift your state of mind, your desired state, right? It's another way to work through things. It doesn't matter how you do it. It doesn't matter what brain hack you use. It doesn't matter what techniques, processes you put into action. Any of the teachings. Whether you believe this to be true or not doesn't matter, because what matters is the past does not have to hold you back, and the future is completely up for grabs. You're writing the story of your life. You can change the ending. The great thing is, forget the story. It's the movie of your life. But the great thing is you're the star, you're the director, you're the producer, you're the writer, you're the special effects man, you're the audience, you're everything. So that means you can change the story. You can change the ending. Where you are now where you end up does not have to be from here to there. You can now break that timeline and start new. You can change the ending. But there's nothing to change until you change yourself. Your concept of self is the foundation of everything. Because the world doesn't only reflect your belief and your assumptions, but it reflects who you are. Essentially, your concept of self is how you see and you perceive yourself and how you walk through this world at the deepest level. My God, what does that mean? Everything is derived from your self-concept. Your beliefs, your assumptions, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions. Trying to change people or circumstances before changing your perception of yourself is pointless. That's what is so wrong with the world. Everybody is out there trying to change everything and make everyone do what they want instead of working on themselves. It would change everything by changing your self-concept and perceiving yourself as the person you want to be. You'll also perceive the world around you differently. Your thoughts and your feelings and your actions will shift. I promise you. I don't know what it is that you want, but whether it's money, relationship, better family dynamic, passion, a new job, you can have it. You deserve it. If anyone else has ever had it, you can have it too. It's not just for some and not for you. You've got to get out of that mindset. You've got to change yourself. And you start doing that by just simply being aware. Your consciousness, being aware of the world in which we live. And our life is determined by our concept we hold of ourselves. People that grew up with parents that told them they weren't good enough, that is what we believe today. It's running on the tape inside our subconscious. Whether you know it or not, whether you fight against it, while you've tried to bury it, you don't want to talk about it. When somebody says, "Oh, you watch out, you better back off," that means you're getting close to their stuff. If you say something to somebody and you can tell if it bothers them, it touches their stuff. That's what they call it. It's made them uncomfortable. Don't go there with me. What does that mean? Yeah, don't go to the place that makes me uncomfortable. That should be a good thing. Not that somebody would use it against you, but to know that feeling comes up, then you know what to work on. Those are road signs. Those are red flags that say, uh-oh, got to work on this. But we don't do that. We push it back down in, right? We try to change the outside world. Your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, everything will shift. And then what else will happen? The outer world shifts. The way people show up for you, the way people act with you, the situations you come across, the doors that open, it all changes. All of it. Here's a quote. Had I a noble, dignified concept of myself, I never could have seen the unlovely in others. Instead of trying to change others through argument and force, let me but ascend in consciousness to a higher level, and I will automatically change others by changing self. There is no one to change but self. That self is simply your awareness, your consciousness, and the world in which it lives is determined by the concept you hold of yourself. It is consciousness that we must turn to as the only reality. And that's from Neville. So what is his biggest teaching? What is the thing everyone talks about today? What is the cornerstone of almost every motivational speaker's teachings? It's this. And why is it this? What I'm about to tell you, because it works. It's powerful. It's like having a magic wand. Believe what you want to believe. I've changed my life. We have seen thousands of people do the same thing. You've seen stories of people that do it. You see so many fakers out there, but if you really look, you will realize this is the secret, and it is living in the end. Because Neville loved to teach this. To experience your desire, you need to go straight to the end result of your wish fulfilled. And I talk about this all the time. When I, was visualizing that house, I wouldn't go to bed in my condo. I would go to bed in my mind in that house. I would see it. I would, my eyes were closed. I was projecting that as I drifted to sleep. The moments before sleep, when you are between your waking mind and your subconscious, it is the best time to get into the programming. We're in that twilight area between being awake and being asleep. That is when the subconscious mind is the easiest to get into. Okay? So you need to experience the feeling you would have at the end. Feeling is the secret. That's one of Neville's books. And The Secret, the Law of Attraction book and movie that everyone, was so hot a few years ago and everyone talks about, is this. But Neville gave you the full answer. The Secret only gives you part of it because it's missing this step. It's missing the feel like you already have it step, the action step, then start moving towards it. Do things you would do. You want to go to Paris? Start looking up flights to Paris to see if your passport needs to be renewed. Start looking at places to stay. Start putting yourself in the mindset you would be in if you were going to Paris. Otherwise, it's a daydream and it never exists. It's always out of your grasp. So live in the experience of the wish fulfilled. That means imagine after whatever it is you want has happened, instead of micromanaging the how, because the how doesn't matter. That also is a huge stumbling block for people. They want this, but in their mind, they're trying to figure out all the things that must happen for them to get that. And those roadblocks they have created in their mind keep them from ever achieving it. Okay? Don't worry about how. Okay, I want $1 million. Okay, well, this has to happen. Somebody has to give it to me, or that, or this, or I have to win the lottery. You're doing all these things. All you got to do, what do you want in your life? Now, go to the end. What would that feel like? What would you feel like if you were that person? Would you be confident? Imagine if you had all the money you needed to take care of your family. What would that feel like? It would feel like freedom, right? The feeling of, I don't have to worry about money again. Money is no longer an issue in my life. That day for me was incredible. When you realize I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry. I'll have enough for whatever I want and take care of people I care about, right? That's freedom. So you're not going to the end and imagining, oh, everybody's looking at me. I have $1 million. See, that's wrong. You're going to go and you're going to think of the feelings, feel the feelings. I can take care of my family. I can donate, to charity. I can help pet rescue, whatever. But all these feelings of accomplishment and these feelings, if you can bring anything you can bring up, passion, anything you can bring up and live in that. Okay. That is important. You can do it when you're standing in line at the bank. You can close your eyes, or even keep your eyes open. You can do it. But you can do it anytime you have any free time. You're stopped at a red light. Do it for a few moments. It is important not to think of the end as something that you're trying to get to. Because then what happens? It's always, again, just out of your reach. If you have to live it like it's now, you've got it already. Because the thinking that you do when you have it is much different than the I want it. I want it. I need it. Why does the world hate me? I deserve this. Right? Go to the end. Live in that feeling. And that way you're not micromanaging how, wondering how it's going to happen, analyzing when it's going to happen. And I always say, you order a pair of jeans from Amazon and you don't get on the phone 3 times a day. Is it coming? Is it coming? When's it coming? How's it coming? When's it coming? You don't do that. It arrives at your house. So you have to forget about the how. How is it going to happen? And just go to it's already happened. Again, there's a huge difference between I want this and I already have it. The feeling your mind puts out, I want it, means I don't have it. I yearn for it. I want it. It's a daydream. It's a wish. I already have it. I'm confident. I feel it. I feel it. Feeling is the secret. Feeling activate. Feeling is the fuel that activates this power, right? Intention, all of that, they work hand in hand. That's what we're doing, cultivating meditation. We're working through, that's what's happening. You're getting your ability to focus. You're getting your ability to go to the end, push the other thoughts out of your mind. Feel it. Feel the accomplishment, how great it will be when you no longer have to worry about money, when you have the perfect relationship, when you've lost the weight, whatever it is, pick something and start. Don't pick 500 things and start. Pick 1, 2, but that's it. Start working. Stop waiting. The great thing is, this is what I love about all of this spiritual work. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to go on a trip. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to be in a special place. You don't have to have special literature. You don't have to wear special clothes. All you need is this. All you need is your home mental gym. And you've got that. It goes wherever you go. It's the perfect scenario. That's all you need for this to work. We don't want to spend any time with ourselves. We don't want to spend any quiet time with ourselves. It terrifies us, the stuff that will come up, right? But when you sit with that darkness, shadow work, when you go into the shadows of your life and you work through that stuff, it vanishes. It frees you. The weights start to lift from your body, the feeling, the pressure, the rock on your chest gets lighter and lighter and lighter and finally disappears. When it first happened to me, it was a week or two before I even realized, because it had been getting better, less stress, less anxiety. Then one day it just fell away. And it wasn't a week and a half. I was like, oh my God, I don't have anxiety anymore. I had that since I was 10 years old. And I never let it get in the way of my dreams. I've done everything I wanted to do, but it was a huge hindrance. And it forced me to do so many things, drink way too much and pop pills way too much and eat way too much and, be greedy with money and, worried only about myself. That's how I was back then. So live in the end. Continue to think of your desire, but like it's here, like it's already done, like you're living in that moment. The idea of thinking and living from the end is to embody this state. Again, it's not that I want it, I need it. It's knowing that it's done and that it's already here. Just by the idea that you've had this in your mind, it's manifested. It's just not manifested into reality. It is here. Everything that's ever been, ever will be, comes up from the unified field. Look it up. Quantum physics. And more decades go by, they learn more and more, and they're able to figure out, that in meditation, especially in transcendental, it's like turning the mind inward, and the mind goes down and gets to that unified field. And everything that's ever been created, going to the moon, fire, everything starts as a thought, starts as a thought form, and now that consciousness, because it's connected, it's centuries of abuse and racism and hate. And we're getting overwhelmed with all that. So feeling is the secret also, because Goddard teaches a variety of techniques to do it. We talk about a lot of them. Affirmations, part of my daily routine. Revision, the imaginary conversation is a great one too, where you go, in meditation, you talk to yourself, maybe from the future, get some advice. Again, it's just a mind hack. But belief is huge. What matters is that you get into the state of the wish fulfilled. That is what it matters. That's what matters. The only thing that matters to get what you want. You've got to get yourself in the state of it's already happened, to the point that the fulfillment of your desire is real for you. It's natural for you. And it's not something that you're lacking or trying to get. And when you fix that, and it's a shift, a slight shift. Again, you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to do anything. You can do it right now. Yeah, he was from Barbados. Was it? Yeah, he was, I think. So one last thing I want to do. I want to give you a Neville Goddard. We talked about this earlier. Okay. This is a method for creating reality. This has been just one of those things, like I said, that has just changed everything for me. So Neville gained prominence, especially towards the end of his life, in the metaphysical field. Now his work at the time wasn't as popular as, say, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. But over time, I think Neville Goddard has eclipsed that, because, where Napoleon Hill's work is dated, and a lot of people say he was not a great person, and he, stole a lot of stuff, information and stuff, and, was not a great person. I think it's kind of flipped, At the time, Neville was popular enough, and he would speak, and people came, but it wasn't until after his death, really, that he became such a huge person in the spiritual field. So during the time that he taught, and I think he started in the 30s, and he died in 72, I think, he spoke of imagination as God. And he insisted that the Bible was merely a story designed to share this information with the common folk, right? While covering these ideas and metaphors that spoke directly to the heart. The problem with any kind of structured religion is you never know who's had their hands on who's been rewriting this. Governments, kingdoms remove things from texts and add things in, depending on the feeling of the people in charge at the time. So when you are depending on knowledge that's passed down, and not knowledge, in other words, you haven't been here all these, billions of years, so you have to take some of it on faith, right? But the problem is many of those things can be changed and you never know it. So his idea was that we're God. You're God, I'm God, we're all God. Imagination is the most powerful and potent expression of our godhood. And through imagination, all things are possible. And I'll tell you, it's the truth. When I was first starting this, I was lucky enough to be able to do whatever I thought I had to go all over the world, to learn all these things from mentors. And, I spent 2 weeks with monks chanting, in Tibet. And when I met, I can't, this situation is just crazy. I met a monk at this convent who was the person in charge, who did not live there, and came on a Saturday. And we were, what do you do? And I'm telling him the story, And back then I was doing a magic act, a Vegas, big Vegas show. And he's, show me something. So I did something for him. And then he said, think of any word. So I do. And he says lumberjack. And I fell down almost. So it wasn't a trick. He was doing it for real, because he was able to get into that unified field. He was able to get into that area, though they spend so much time connecting to themselves, they create this base of power that's just incredible. I saw it with my own eyes. I've spent my entire career, I know all about sleight of hand and misdirection, and when somebody walks up to you and says, think of a word, and you do, and you don't write it down, you don't say it, you don't tell anyone, and they tell you what it is, well, that gets my attention. Right? And a lot of the philosophy, Buddhism, is the same. We're all one. We are all God. Imagination is the most powerful thing. It's the most potent expression. Everything is possible. The kingdom is inside us. We must dissolve the boundaries between what we hold to be imaginary. An imaginary is just a word that refers to things that are separate from what we consider to be real. And then, of course, those things we hold to be real, because the two are the same. They are one and the same. If we dissolve those boundaries, then we can create and we can become whatever we want. Now, one can go deep into this rabbit hole, right? Man, that you go on YouTube and you watch one video, and then 3 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours later, you're staring at the screen. You fell down the YouTube rabbit hole. To Neville, all stories were true, and all stories come true in that moment. Just as you find ideas regarding his idea of acting as if and changing the role you play in this cosmic dream, of ours. When you go deeper and deeper and you begin to understand that Neville believed that we are always creating our reality. Always. We are the creator of all that is around us and all that is entering our lives. It's deep. It's a deep conversational idea. But since his passing, science has proven so many of these things. Quantum physics have proven so many of these things. He was so far ahead of his time. We all have fears and doubts. I have my own, regarding this idea. Sometimes it's overwhelmingly terrifying. But I have found during my journey that there is significant truth to it. We are creating our reality. We can choose to accept someone else's reality and the beliefs and the actions and the ideas that reality entails, or we can create our own. We can live for someone else and someone else's ideas and family, or we can create our own. From that, we will inevitably change the very role that we play. For all definitions are illusory, and they're subject to the infinite motion and the impermanence of your imagination. Imagination, how powerful is it? Einstein said imagination is more important than knowledge, because imagination is a powerful tool. Think about it. You can conjure up images, smells, tastes, sounds, sights, anything. You know how many times you're driving down the road and like when I smell cut grass, it takes me immediately to the 80s, Friday night, cutting the grass at our house. How does that happen? It's magic. Without the feelings that come from such a thing, reality remains unchanged. Neville knew that you can imagine what you desire as much as you want, and there is tremendous value in doing it. Make no mistake, it's not daydreaming when you're living in the moment. Because without the fulfillment, the feelings of the fulfillment of your desire, then there is nothing. Because the feelings are a language. They're a language in themselves. And if you know how to speak the language of God, of the universe, of Source, if you know how to speak directly to that infinite faculty within yourself, then there's nothing that can or will stop you. Neville made a point of saying and emphasizing the fact that imagining the receiving of your desire is not the same as the fulfillment of your desire. So imagining the receiving of your desire is not the same as imagining the fulfillment of the desire. Because when you imagine the specific act of receiving or obtaining that which you desire, you end up creating a number of blocks that severely limit what you've created and what can be created. Now, this isn't a bad thing, and it does work. But Neville made a point of emphasizing the fact that for the most success, the best success, you want to focus on the end result. Now, the end result can be many things. And for him, it was an action that implied, in no uncertain terms, the complete fulfillment of the desire that he had in mind. It could be an imaginal scene in which you're being congratulated by someone due to the fulfillment of your desire. It could be you standing on the scale, looking down and seeing your dream weight on there and feeling the feeling of pride in yourself, an accomplishment. This desire could be purchasing a new house or going on a trip somewhere. Or if you really want to get really big, maybe inventing something. The scene is indicative of the end result, and it implies the fulfillment of your desire. Then, according to Neville, you must repeat it and allow those seeds to be planted. From this, you will be led to the final step of the process. The final step of the process is letting go and surrendering. And I'm speaking from my own experience when I say it's the hardest thing to do, especially since you have most likely fallen in love with your end result and what you know is coming, and you're excited and you're ready, but you're nervous. It isn't easy to do this, but I know it's necessary. I found it to be necessary. Maybe the most necessary step of all. Now, before I finish up today, I'm gonna read two little stories to you that affirm and they give some credence to the ideas that Neville spoke of. And you'll get a greater understanding of the metaphysics at play here. At the end of it, you will have an exact process that I have used, that millions of people have used, that our clients have used, and that Neville spoke of, along with a few suggestions in each step for how to best execute each step in the process. So are you ready? We're going to do this together. This is Neville's method for creating reality. Right away, you're asking, does it work? I can tell. It doesn't work. It absolutely does. I will say it depends, though, because it's going to depend how it works for you. It's worked for me. It's worked for many other people. Maybe it'll do that for you. Or maybe you're going to screw yourself over and you're going to realize you've put up a roadblock in your way. But whether it works for you or not depends on your willingness to accept it and to try it. What do you have to lose? That's what changed everything for me too. When you have nothing to lose, when you're sick of how it is, when you can't do it one more day, when you're sick of drinking, you're sick of doing, popping pills, whatever it is, and you can't take it anymore, that's sometimes the best gift you can have because it gives you your willingness to accept it. You've got to try this, but you've got to believe it. You've got to feel it. It's got to feel natural to you. There is no one size fits all. There's no magic pill. Everybody wants it now, especially Americans, especially today. We have a 7-second attention span. We want it yesterday. There is no magic pill. Sometimes it may take a while for it to work for you, but that's okay. There are so many methodologies, so many practices that I've tried over the years that didn't work for me. And some that didn't work right away. And some that didn't work because I didn't quite understand one part of it. And then later, I reread something I read years before, and it clicked for the first time. I will say this. If you choose to use this, to accept this way of being and thinking for just a week, you will find that things are happening. And what happens will blow you away. So if you want to do this, why don't you commit for a week with me? To illustrate my answers to this question, I'm going to share with you those two stories. One of them, I'll tell my friend's story at the end, very skeptical. But, he finally surrendered to the process, and I'll tell you what happened there. But first, we had a client for a number of years, ever since she was a girl, 16, I think. She wanted to go to Cambodia. She was so into spirituality, even at a young age. She wanted to visit all those beautiful sacred temples, right, along with the city itself. And she did all the research and read all the books. She found it to be just beautiful and enchanting. And ever since she was a girl, she dreamt of that city before she even knew its name. She had those dreams. And she searched and searched and searched. It was the pre-internet days. And think of how much harder it was then. She really wanted to go there. More specifically, she wanted to move there. Right? She wanted to move there before her 30th birthday. Now, there was a plan involved. And she knew someday, she even knew the day she wanted to move, the day after her 29th birthday. That would have, that would give her a year before she's 30 to settle in and everything. So she had a date in mind, and she was reading a lot of Neville Goddard, and she realized that she could use those methods for obtaining the money she needed to purchase a plane ticket. But again, she was smart enough to realize money wasn't what she wanted. She just wanted the plane ticket. So she changed the intention to that of obtaining a plane ticket to Cambodia for that date. Now, using a few ideas, just a few that she took from Neville's book. Feeling is the Secret is probably his most famous book, and you can read it in an hour. I mean, it's so thin. She made a list of 4 or 5 things that she didn't want to come from the intention, and 11 things that she did want. And this allowed her to gain clarity and a better and a more precise image of the end result. So she needed a plan, right? So she told herself that every night before bed, she would spend 10 minutes envisioning, imagining, and feeling the sensations of having that ticket right in front of me. I'm going to be honest with you. You know, those sessions for her were jumbled and they were confusing. She tried it. She visualized the ticket. She visualized being on the plane. Some people see in pictures. Some people see in words. Some people hear things, right? So visualization is strong for some. Affirmation is strong for others. Not usually one person isn't going to be, you know, a master in all of these fields. That's why you want to be proficient at all of them. One of them will take off for you. She was, you know, visualized being on the plane, being in the city, you know, doing a bunch of things that were connected to it, but she didn't understand the extent of the connection. And then she just kind of let the images and the sensations flow over her. But eventually, she worked with us, and through this, she ended up honing in on a specific scene. We call it an anchor image. That's the coin I talked about the other day. If you know the touchstone, you touch something that gives you the feeling and the thought. An anchor image is that inside your mind. It's an image that you can conjure up that brings those feelings up, all those feelings of accomplishment and passion and pride. That is an anchor image. Okay, when you bring that up into your mind. So that's what we taught her how to do that, right? And in her anchor image, you know, she was telling her parents about the ticket, and they were excited. And I just purchased the ticket, and you know, she did all this. She went to the calendar, and she circled the date for real on the calendar. And then for a couple of weeks, she just did it over and over and over again. You know, every night, then every morning, and then in the middle of the day too. Not allowing herself to lose the faith, right? What do you have to lose? That's the thing. It's not costing you anything, nothing. You're going to spend this time anyway. So why not spend it doing something that can change your life? On the day, the final day, before her deadline, right? That would have given her enough time to sell her apartment and do all of her things. She got everything together. You know, she was a writer. She got a couple of last minute freelance jobs that came out of the blue. This is pre-internet days, right? This was, not pre-internet, but it wasn't like proficient like it is now. This was about 6, 7, 8 years ago. So she got these jobs, these writing jobs, and the day before, she had the money, almost to the penny. She bought the ticket, and then the scene that she imagined played itself out for real, just as she felt it, telling the parents. The feeling that she had when she told the parents was the same one she had conjured up. And initially, she was afraid, you know, but soon enough, you stop caring about it. You let go, because you do that because you don't care. You don't mind what the outcome is. You've let that part of it go. For deep inside, you have to know that it's going to be okay, that you're on the right path. Now, this last story I want to tell you is actually a friend of mine. Okay, and I'm going to tell you this. So this is somebody. He didn't have a lot of luck with the ladies. Let's just say that, you know. So he wanted to meet someone cool, and he wanted to have great experiences with them, maybe a great sexual experience, right? So this is not somebody who we've worked with coaching wise or anything. He's just a friend. And, you know, we were talking about it, and of course he was skeptical, but, you know, I explained to him, you know, what do you have to lose? So he was willing to try it. You know, the method that we came up for him was a little different, but what he did was simply create an imaginal scene where he was telling me about how great his new girlfriend was, how awesome his sex life was, how in tune they were with each other, how she loved all the same things as him. He condensed it down to about 7 words that he could say to himself and that would bring all of that feeling and emotion up, right? So in this scene that he created in his mind, he was texting me. So he played the scene throughout the day, maybe, 12, 15, 20 times. Each time he recalled the scene, he breathed in for 4 seconds, exhaled for 4 seconds. If you do that 3 times, you're grounded immediately, grounds you. So anytime you want to do any kind of visualization, affirmations, it's always good to do a little breath work. And, if you don't have time to sit down and do breath work, you can just do that. You can do inhale, right? 4 seconds, hold, release 4 seconds. Okay. Now he didn't set a date for the intention, but he wanted it to happen soon, right? We want everything now. So there were very few preconceptions that he had in mind, and he ended up letting go pretty easy of how it was going to happen, of when it was going to happen. He let that shit go, because that's, again, what holds us back, is wondering and worrying about how it's going to happen. It just wasn't a big deal to him. It was nice, but he didn't really know if anything would come of it. But he was willing to put some belief in there. Now, within 5 days, it was less than a week. Within 5 days, on that Friday, he met somebody. He was taking college classes, met somebody at school. They ended up hanging out. As you can imagine, things went really well. He got his wish. He sent me the text for real. And it was the same exact one he said that he wanted to send from his vision. And now, today, several years later, they're married. They have 3 kids. He did exactly. He wasn't holding on tightly to how and why. You have to hold on loosely, but don't let go. You have to keep your grip on, but not stranglehold on it. So you decide what you want. You live as if you have it. Conjure that feeling up several times a day. When you're not, you just let it go. You don't think about it. You don't worry about it. You don't ruminate over it. You just live in the end. Go to the end, right? There's so many stories that we have. I mean, I could tell you on and on and on. People, I talk about all the time, people that have learned, I hate my ex-husband. We've been divorced for 10 years. I hate him with a burning passion, Well, how does your ex-husband, how's he holding up? Well, he doesn't even care. He doesn't even know. Right. So you're torturing yourself. He's living his life completely oblivious to what's going on. So who is, that hate that you're sending to him, you're getting back double. That's what we do. We put it out, we get it back. So there's so many stories, but those always struck a chord with me. Things where people, where it's almost exactly, I'm standing in the foyer of that house and I'm realizing, wow, this is exactly the same. This is the thing I was doing twice a day, for a year and a half, 2 years ago. Here it is. I put it out of my mind. Completely forgot about it. I had places in Palm Springs. I've owned other places. So it was no longer, it was, I wanted it. I created it. I lived in it. But then I let it go and I kind of forgot about it. And then one day I was in the middle of it and realized, holy shit, this is the vision. Exactly. That's why now, I want to move back to California. I'm looking at places, a couple of houses in Santa Monica. So when I'm meditating, when I start my meditation, first thing I do in the morning is meditation. When I do that, I sit cross-legged on the floor, but I'm not meditating in my office. I'm not meditating, here at my place. I'm meditating by the pool of my house in Santa Monica. I get the feeling, I feel it, I'm there. I can smell the air, I can see the shrubs moving in the wind, whatever it is. I am living in the end. So when you can get to the point where you've created and you know that it's coming and you just don't stress over the idea of when is it going to come, then you'll get it. So you have to decide what your intention is. What is your goal? So maybe try this with something smaller. Don't go for the big one right away. Go for something you're not particularly attached to and are more or less indifferent to. Because once you see it happen, it creates the belief. that will make it so much easier to manifest. So that's another secret that I'm giving you, is don't go for your biggest dream, your biggest goal now. Go with some smaller goals that when you accomplish them, when they come into your life, then they will create belief, which will make it so much easier to manifest the big things. So go for something smaller. So the first step is, what do you want? What do you want? I mean, it can be anything. It can be anything at all. So don't dumb it down. Just decide what it is you want. And then we're going to expand it, as we move down the line to other bigger things, but pick something small. Clarify what you want. Let's say for your first intention, you want $100. Let's just say, or you want, let's just say $100. So what are they? Are they 100 US dollars? Write that down. Do you want them in cash? Write that down. The most important part of all, what do you intend to use this money for? Is there a goal you have in mind? Are you going to use this extra amount of money for something you've been wanting to buy? Are you going to what are you going to do with it? Or are you simply trying to see if the process works? If you are, write that down too. Write everything down. For our client, she wanted a plane ticket to Cambodia, so she wrote that down. And the purpose of that was so she could move there. Step 2, what is your end result? Let's say you want $100 because you want to buy $100 worth of lotto tickets. That is the end result of having that money. And if this is the case, then your real intention is for the lotto tickets and not for the money. The money is simply another obstacle that is blocking your path towards that intention. So to dissolve this, focus on the end result. So again, she was focusing on the plane ticket. Then she was focusing on the money to buy the plane ticket, and she got it. She was seeing herself in Cambodia. She was seeing herself in the places. That is where the real magic is. Imagining yourself at the end. So if it's the lotto tickets you want, don't try to be thinking, I want $100. You're going to be thinking about the lotto tickets. That's where it starts to get tricky, because there are often all kinds of intentions. There are multiple intentions at work. It can be a little confusing as to how we get there. So if you want the lotto tickets because you want to win money, then you've created way too many obstacles. Ask yourself, why do I want the money? And then go for those things. Like I said, is it the freedom of it? Is it the ability to take care of your family? Again, not for $100, but what is the end result? Are you going to use that $100 for? And then go to that, go to the result that the 100 is going to bring you. If it's just going to pay off bills, go straight to paying off bills. Rather than the part where you obtain money, go to the part where you've paid off your bills and you feel so relieved. If there are multiple end results, then you need to create something that encapsulates all of them into a single intention. Like when she set the intention for the plane ticket, her end result was having the ticket in her hand and feeling the certainty of knowing that she was going. If she intended to move sooner, she could have simply envisioned herself on the plane touching down, right? But again, she had time and she was merely concerned about the ticket and having it. So she envisioned the feeling that came from it rather than the full end result. But looking back, it would have been better for her, even though she got it, but it would have worked better if she had gone ahead in time and then simply saw herself at the airport, looking at the ticket, seeing the purchase date. But nonetheless, it worked. And it happens all the time. This stuff works for us. It works for so many people. They don't realize what they're doing. Some people are amazing manifestors. And they manifest so much in their life. And they don't realize that they're doing it. Or they give the glory of it to a middleman, to something else, instead of realizing that it was them. So step 3, what is your scene? It can be really tricky at first. And I recommend giving yourself a couple of days. We're going to do a week, right? So give yourself 2 days just to simply allow images and scenes to flood your mind. You can hold on to the ones that you like. You can get rid of the ones that you don't. Simply surrender and allow them to come to you. And they will. From that, you'll find a scene that implies the fulfillment of your desire. And that's what it's all about. Again, the end result, living in the end. Step 4, play the scene, feel the feelings. Take a deep breath, in for 4, out for 4. Do it a few times, and you feel lighter and calmer, and you feel more relaxed. Now close your eyes and let the sensations flood your mind. Keep your intention in focus, and then slowly build the scene. If you aren't aware of the scene yet, let the sensations flood your mind. Let the pieces come together. The pieces of the puzzle will come together. Don't force it. Don't push it. Simply let go. Now, when you find a scene that is magnificent and necessary for your purposes and perfect for what you want, play it over and over. Edit it, trim it, capture the implied feeling of it. Capture the intention of it with a single image or a single phrase, and then repeat it over and over and over. As you play it again and again, take time to add sensory details. What does the air feel like? What does it smell like? Is it night? Is it day? Anything you can do to add sensory details to the scene will make it come faster. Step 5, let go and surrender. Now you have to make sure you do this after each session. Okay, so you're going to spend 10 minutes a day. You're going to do this visualization. You've decided what you wanted. You're working. But at the end of it, when you're done, after every session, you let it go for the day until you pick it up the next day. You let it go. You've done what's necessary. There's no need to fear. There's no need to struggle. There's no need to strain. Now, if you have trouble with this, I have 3 quick recommendations for you before I go. The first one is to distract yourself right after you finish your session. Work on a project, talk to a friend, watch a movie, draw something, make something, anything you can think of that takes you away from what you were doing. But ideally, something you enjoy, something you're passionate about, which makes it easier for you to forget the session which you've created. The second one is to do some breathing. And people say all the time, well, I breathe automatically. We don't know how to breathe. We don't ever take deep enough breaths. Breathing, especially in meditation, is vital. Breath work is vital. So you can do what I said, breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, breathe out for 4. Another great one is you inhale for 4, hold it for 8, exhale for 7. And it's not just something that's pulled out of the air. There's something about that. And that the repetition of doing that. So inhale for 4, hold it for 7, hold it for 8, exhale for 7. Okay? 4, 8, 7. So breathing is important. And finally, the third thing is saying out loud, thank you. From this moment on, I let go. I surrender. And that's it. This affirmation, this prayer, it means that you accept what you intend to create and that you've created it. So I want to thank you for joining me today and for being here. And I know you're probably watching this later. This was a long one, but everything I've given you in this Neville Goddard section is everything that you need to transform. It's everything you need to awaken. It's everything you need to be happy, passionate, fulfilled, abundant in every single way. It's here. This is it. I appreciate spending your time with me, and it's all about you. That's why we're here. We spend hours a day in this community cultivating content, coming up with questions, working on videos for you. You know, these are free, but we want people to have the knowledge to change their life. You're happy. The people around you are happy. It goes on and on and on. It multiplies. It changes things. It changes our reality as a group, as a collective consciousness, because you're changing yours and your positive outlook, your positive images influence and inspire. And then those people, and on, and it grows and it grows and it grows. If you have any questions on anything that we talk about, anything you need help on, somewhere that you're stuck, anything I talk about, drop it in the comments. Send me a private message. You know, we are here to help you. We are here to help you on this journey. If it's something that's more personal, like I said, send me a private message and we can correspond. Okay. Now I want to remind you, thank you. I appreciate you being here for this long one, of course. I want to remind you guys about my website. It's BrentWebb.com. It's brand new. We just revamped my website, and I want you to go take a look because there you will find all sorts of tools. And if you are someone who needs a coach or a mentor, you can find that there too. And I have worked with the most successful people in the world, and those people have mentors too. I have coaches now that I use for business and for mindset. You know, we all do. You can't expect to get better. You know, certain areas of your life, there's always going to be someone that can help you. You find the right coach, the right mentor. If that's something that you are looking at, go to my website, BrentWebb.com. You can get some information, send me an email. I'll give you all the details. Also, coming very, very soon this week is our brand new video. It is almost finished. It's almost edited. It's called Religion versus Spirituality. Now, of course, it's not a battle. It's just the differences. What's the same? What's different? You know, how people see things differently depending on religion or spirituality. So we're going to get to that. That's going to be out, I think, on Sunday. So be ready for that. Also, don't forget to join our YouTube channel because we don't post anywhere near the amount of videos in the group that are on the YouTube channel. We're, I think, at 250 videos at this point. Now, it's Empowerment Television. You'll find it at youtube.com/empowerment TV. So take a look. It's youtube.com/empowerment TV. If you haven't joined our Facebook community, now's the time to do that. If you're watching this today, though, you're probably watching it from there. But Facebook, I was actually talking to somebody, a moderator from groups that works for Facebook, because we're trying to figure out our engagement keeps getting pulled back. And, oh, there's this reason and that reason. So the more you like, comment, and share our posts and all of the things that we do, the better it is for our engagement. So invite your friends and your family. You're giving them a gift. This isn't a group where we, talk about politics or celebrities or the Kardashians or some bullshit. This is where we change our life. Self-empowerment is taking control, learning to let go and setting goals and making positive choices, not just for ourselves, but for the people around us and the world at large. So join us. It's facebook.com/groups/students of self-empowerment. facebook.com/groups/students of self-empowerment. So that's all I got for you today. Thanks for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with another Mind Power Minute, and Sunday with our religion versus spirituality video. Go out and enjoy yourself. It's Friday. Well, unless you're in Australia, then it's Saturday. But wherever you are, it's the weekend, right? You deserve some time, so take some time for yourself. Take a week. Try Neville Goddard's practices. It'll change your life. I promise you. Let us know how it goes for you. We want to hear all about it. If you need help, let us know that too. Don't worry. Be happy. Feel good. See you tomorrow.